Alright, guys. So, this is going to be my review of Sins of Sinister. Sins of Sinister was an X-Men event that was earlier this year, and this was sent to me by my good friend Chris, aka the Mount Vernon Kid. Yes, Chris, I did finish this very fast. Thank you for asking. Yeah, so I'm going to be reviewing this book. Now, if you don't know what Sins of Sinister is basically a comic that is set during the Krakoa era. This kind of is like one of the building blocks for Fall of X that's going on right now, so keep that in mind. The other thing that is important is that this was kind of something that they've been building to with Mr. Sinister for a while. And for those who don't know, Mr. Sinister is my favorite X-Men villain, and probably one of my favorite Marvel villains of all time. So it's cool to see him get the forefront, even though Sinister isn't really the villain here. I'll explain in a minute. He is and he isn't. Let me preference this. So basically what has happened is that Sinister, through the resurrection protocols in Krakoa, he has imprinted himself into every resurrection. He starts with Emma, Exodus, Charles, and Hope, some of the members of the Quiet Council, and essentially he's spread his influence from there into people and mutants alike, leading to, ironically, the destruction of Orchis, which, in a fun way, I feel like that could have been a lot could have been avoided. Anyway, so Sinister wins. Like, that's the thing. Sinister wins and takes over the world. Yeah, let me say that again. Sinister wins and takes over the goddamn planet. But here's a few things. Storm does not, since she's not part of the Krakoa protocols, she blasts off to Arakko and leads a rebellion against Sinister. And there's still, like, the Kree-Shi'ar Empire that's still around, that's a thorn in their side, as well as a few other things here and there. However, the problem is that while Sinister wins, he discovers that even though he controls the X-Men, he doesn't really control them. He just basically brought out their bad side, and they're still them, they just have a touch of Sinister in them. So, from there, Sinister tries to reboot everything with a Moira clone, but the problem is that someone went into his lab and stole all of his shit, and now he's trapped in this timeline that he's made. And this leads to an over 100-year period of just all-out Sinister-controlled world. Think of it like Age of Apocalypse. Like, that was what they were trying to do with this comic. This is written by three writers working congruently with this event, which doesn't really... While it is an event, it also didn't really harm anyone's timeline, except for the end, which does have big implications for stuff leading into Fall of X. That being, like, the stuff with Mother Righteous and all of that, but we'll get into that in a bit. So, like I said, Sinister is my favorite X-Men villain, and to see him get the spotlight is kind of fun. Especially with the Krakoa era, where they make him just a catty little bitch, is it's actually a lot of fun. Side note, I kind of imagine, especially with how they write Sinister now, I kind of imagine Steve Blum doing his Starscream voice for this character. That's how I kind of imagine how this Sinister sounds, is Prime Starscream, voiced by Steve Blum. Now, the writers for this were Karen Gillan, Al Ewing, and Cy Spurrier. And these guys worked meticulously to make this, like, one big coherent story. What I like about this trade is that it actually puts all the because it's three-part miniseries, as well as two big start and finishes of these stories, and they actually put them in canonical order. Like, each chapter is, while it's not like, okay, here the first three are Immoral X-Men #1, and then here's 1 through 3 of Nightcrawlers, then 1 through 3 of Storm and the Brotherhood of Mutants. It's not like that. It's more like, here they are and where they are canonically. So you may get, like, Nightcrawlers 1 and 2, or Immoral X-Men, and then Storm and the Brotherhood of Mutants. It all depends, really. Like, it really just all depends on... It's just, like, that's what I like about this trade, And what Marvel does really well is like put everything in like canonical order. For, you know, if you're going to read a big event, they put it all the stuff in the right pattern. Because sometimes, and Marvel does do this too, is like DC especially is egregious sometimes when it comes to putting a book together, a trade together, and they don't put the comics in proper order, therefore you're confused on context. Looking at you, Dark Knight's Death Metal, how many books did it need to do that goddamn thing? To finish that goddamn story and put it in trade and, you know, mix up the trades and confuse everyone on context. I do like that, you know, there's just so much fun. There's like a dark humor to it too. Like there's great jabs at X-Men lore. There's like fun little in-jokes here and there, but it's also very dark, and it's a nice introspective on Sinister himself, where he's just like, I fucked up hard. I have fucked up everything, and now with the introduction of Rasputin 4, because we did see her in the beginning of House of X, this is like her big outing, and see where she really came from. Mother Righteous is also just a bitch, and I really hope, because I know she's playing a big part in Fall of X, I really hope that, well, Hope and Exodus just kill her. Like, I really hope they kill the shit out of her, because she's another Sinister clone, only that she is, she's more about magic than anything else. They also do some cool stuff here with Thor, being the last Avenger and a few other things. It definitely feels like a very strong, tight-knit story. Yeah, the pacing's really good for about a total of a 9-issue story, 11 when you count like Sins of Sinister Alpha and then Dominion, which is the end of the story. Yeah, it's a well put together comic. I really enjoyed this story. It's probably one of my favorite events in the Krakoa era of X-Men. It's a nice introspective on Sinister. It's a great look at, like, you gotta, because this brings about like the worst of all the X-Men characters. So to see Emma back to being the White Queen as we know her, and 10 times worse, is kind of scary. And even Sinister's like, these people terrify me. Like, I have made real monsters this time. You know that's a bad sign when Sinister fucks up that hard. Anyway, so Chris, thank you once again for this book. Yeah, this was a lot of fun to read. But yeah, so you guys tell me in the comments below if you've read Sins of Sinister. Let me know in the comments below. And no, I don't care if you don't like the Krakoa era or not. I seem to bring every time I bring up a Krakoa era comic, everyone's like, "I'm sorry, but I just don't like the Krakoa era book. I don't understand. I don't care. I really don't. I'm not the guy to complain to. That's Marvel's department." But yeah. I will admit that not everything in the Krakoa era of X-Men has been good, but but the fact that they've made the X-Men forefront again after how many years, people? There was like a 7-year period where they just trounced the X-Men left and right. So I'm happy we're getting X-Men events again. Anyway, once again, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.